Raoul, Ted. Okay, okay, how are you? That's it. Yeah. Um, what I want, right? Harvey said he's going to be tied up today. I know he has some doctor stuff or what, but about 9:30 or something. You don't know what your day is going to be like. I can't. I'm tied up now, but I want to just take a look at some stuff with you, and then if you know the foreman from the job or anything, go over to the A building, the same contractor, and you look at the floors and the borders along the end are straight lines. You know, they're straight. They look good. Uh, some of this it just looks so sloppy. The paint that put down the paint that they put down, forgetting even the borders, which don't look like they were done properly. When they put the paint on the floor, I know they're using a roller at the end of a stick, the way to do it. But like some places they missed. The old floor is there or something. It looks like what I'd say if I did it myself, you know. These are supposedly professionals or something. It just doesn't look like it's a finished job at all. And people are starting to talk to me about it. You know, I think Harvey heard a couple of complaints also. But I want to just look at it with you to see what it is, because I don't know if the next building is any better. You know, this was D. I don't know what they're doing up in yeah. A border. Right. And sometimes if you're looking just to make it look a little better, they put a border going the opposite direction across the. You know, I don't know how many feet they did it. You know, with it just like in between, like I said, between the elevator and the wall. They put the elevator in the end of the building. They put a line or two. We just look. We just walk and look at it. You'll see what it is, and it just looks really sloppy. I don't know what they're planning. So yeah, he said it flakes, and then when they come, they'll blow the flakes away. There won't be any flakes on the border. I said, yeah, but that's not the issue. I don't know if that's the case or not. When they if, if they be able to blow it away, uh, but if they said we haven't done the border yet, I feel a lot better. But I don't think that's the case at all. Meet you by the D building 9:30. 9:30. Very good. Yeah. Okay. Nine.
Morning.
No, I don't. I don't.
Morning, Teddy.
Let me look around for it and think about it. But I'll meet you at 9:30. Okay. Offhand, I don't know. I haven't seen any tile any place now. Any spare tile. People have said, oh, we could buy them. They're standard. You go buy them, but I don't know whether that's the case or not. Because I don't think it would have a mat. It's been up there for 40 years. It has to have faded a little bit from. You go out to buy something new. I think it'll look different. But, we'll see. Okay, well, Meet you 9:30, okay? Very good, thanks. Good
Where is
morning.
it? Morning.
Harvey's not going to be here.
Huh?
Harvey won't be here today.
Erwin is on. Okay.
Okay, yeah, and there, Rabbi Green looks like he's signing in also. I'm here even though my picture isn't.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay.
Harvey won't be here this morning. He called me last night to tell me.
Yeah, everything all right there?
He always has something. It's a doctor appointment, I think.
Oh, okay.
He had it last Monday also.
All right. Excuse me. I'm assuming Erwin will get on shortly. You're on. Great. All right. So we're on Kaf Nun Zayin, Amud Aleph, top of the Amud. We've finished actually the first line or two. We said that we aim both wrote that one does not chop wood from beams below mina koresh nishbara b'yom tov. Right, and not a beam. Okay, remember a house beam, a plank that was broken on Yom Tov. Okay? Rabbi Yochanan, hahu k'Rabbi Yossi b'Rabbi Yehuda matnela. Right, and we're finished with the fact that Rabbi Yochanan taught it according to the view of Rabbi Yossi b'Rabbi Yehuda, right, which we said that therefore it wasn't an anonymous Astam Mishnah, right? So that's a little bit of problematic, right? Because Rabbi Yochanan usually says that we follow Stam Mishnah. However, let's go to a new Braita, which is going to perhaps, hopefully, shed some idea on that. Tashma, says the new Braita. Matchilin ba'arimat hateven, aval lo be'etzim shebamuktzah. When it comes to starting a fire, okay, the Gemara is going to tell us that the Braita, that we start with a pile of straw, for example, but not with that wood that could be found in the storage place. Why? Because that wood is set aside. It's muktzah. It wasn't necessarily mukhan for use for that Shabbat. So the Gemara clarifies, Hatam ba'ar ze va'ashuche de muktzah mechamad chisaron kis. There, he says, in that situation, it was because they were wood from a fir tree or a cedar tree. And therefore, since that's very expensive wood, it is considered muktzah mechisron kis. Because
obviously here, Rabbi, we're talking about Yom Tov, not Shabbos, right? About Yom Tov.
Yom Tov, but it could apply to Shabbos as well. Okay, we're going to see.
How could we light a fire on Shabbos?
We wouldn't. Well, this the Braita refers to Yom Tov exactly.
Right.
Okay, but the question is, let's say somebody was going to poke the fire, right, with another piece of wood, for example, right, which we now understand is forbidden to be done.
Right.
Okay. However, the question was that the practice then too?
Okay.
Okay. Especially remember we saw that there was a difference between Rabbi Yehuda, who said there is muktzah, and Rabbi Shimon, who says there is no muktzah. So you wouldn't even have the situation of muktzah mechisron kis. Afilu Rabbi Shimon modeh, and that's why the Gemara then says even Rabbi Shimon, who doesn't ordinarily hold by muktzah, in this case, he would agree and say also there is such a thing as muktzah mechisron kis. Okay, a new braita. Tashma, listen to the following. Ein mashkin v'shochtein midbariot, says this braita, that we don't give animals that are out in the wilderness. We're going to call those pasture animals, okay? We don't water them and we don't slaughter them on Shabbat or on Yom Tov, right? Aval mashkin v'shochtin et habaitot. But domestic animals, we can give water to, and we can actually slaughter them, not on Shabbos, but on Tov. Okay? Again, the pasture animals are considered muktzah. Rabbi Yochanan, stama acharina ashkach. So the Gemara tells us here, that Rabbi Yochanan also found another stam Mishnah opposing this, namely Beit Shammai, in this case, Omrim Magbihin Me'al HaShulchan Atzamot Uklipin. According to Beit Shammai, we could remove, the bones and any shells, not shells, from the table on Shabbat. Right? Ubeit Hillel Omrim Misaleket HaTavla Kula U'Mina'ara. And according to Beit Hillel, we say that they lift the entire, remember they would use like little, what was it, the TV tables, we made the example, right? And you could pick up the whole table, shake it, and things would fall off then by themselves. V'amar Rav Nachman. By the way, so what happens? By citing that example, okay, that would seem to coincide with the view of Rabbi Shimon, right? That there is no muktzah. As Beit Shammai says, you can handle these things in that way. Va'amar Rav Nachman, anu ein lanu ela Beit Shammai k'Rabbi Yehuda. And Rav Nachman responds that our view was that no other than that of Beit Shammai that agreed with Rabbi Yehuda. Namely, that Rabbi Yehuda says there is muktzah. Okay? Ubeit Hillel k'Rabbi Shimon. And the Rabbi Hillel was the one who held, like Rabbi Shimon, that there is no muktzah, which is the exact, right? Seems to be the opposite. Rab Nachman is telling us. Plige ba Rav Acha v'Ravina. Okay? And he said, Gemara tells us, that Rav Acha and Ravina disagreed on this. Chad Amar b'chol haShabbat kula halacha k'Rabbi Shimon lavar mi muktzah mechamat mi. Okay, one had the view that he said, okay, that throughout all of Shabbat, the law is regarding muktzah, that the only situation of muktzah that applies, okay, for Rabbi Shimon is a muktzah that comes as a result of something that's disgusting, repulsive. Umay nihu, and what might that be? For example, ner yashan. That's an old lamp. Okay, why would an old lamp be repulsive? Because of the leftover oil, things like that. V'chad amar b'muktzah mechamat mi'us nami halacha k'Rabbi Shimon. The other said that this variety, let's say, of muktzah, okay, repulsive muktzah, also fits Rabbi Shimon, who usually says there's no muktzah. He does hold it in that case. Lavar mi muktzah mechamat isur. And the exception for Rabbi Shimon would be instead a situation of muktzah where there is a prohibition. So Gemara asks, Umay nihu? So what might that be? Ner shehedliku ba ba'oto Shabbat. Okay? In other words, it's a lamp where it had been lit on that very same Shabbat. Aval muktzah mechamat chisron kis. Afilu Rabbi Shimon modeh. But if it's in terms of financial concerns, there too, Rabbi Shimon would acknowledge that that would be a acceptable example of muktzah, even though in other cases he normally would not hold with the concept of muktzah. Ditnan, as taught elsewhere in a Mishnah, kol hakelim nitalim b'Shabbat. Any, our Mishnah says, any items, right, that could be handled on Shabbat, right? Chutz mimasar hagadol, with the exception of a large saw, v'yated shel machrisha, or the exception of the blade of a plow. Okay, so we had a Mishnah earlier that gave us that example. Okay, so unfortunately, so here we don't have a final conclusion in the part of the Gemara. Okay, but we understand that basically, excuse me, that there are varieties of muktzah. There were situations where some accepted some and some not others. And ultimately, Rabbi Yehuda's view prevailed that there is muktzah. Okay, in all these situations, whether it's mius, whether it's isur, whether it's mechamat ksafim. Okay, we go to our new Mishnah. This is going to be the final Mishnah in Masechet Shabbos. We're going to go through and just go over through the top of the next Amud, and that's where we're going to stop today, because I want to leave a little bit of space, a little something for the siyum later. Okay, Matnitin, our new Mishnah teaches. Okay, and our initial question as we look at this Mishnah is going to be, what does this have to do with Shabbat? Okay, so Mefirin Nidarim b'Shabbat. According to this Mishnah, it's possible to nullify vows on Shabbat. Okay, V'nishalin l'nidarim shehem l'tzorech haShabbat. And it's also possible, says the Mishnah, to inquire of a sage, okay, to exempt one from a vow, if that vow was for the purpose of something necessary for Shabbat. And then going on, upokakin et hama'or. And it's possible also, we say here, that one may close up, seal a, some want to say a light, I think it's a skylight, okay, a window of some kind. Umodadin et hamatlit. And it's possible then to measure some sort of a mat, a rag, okay? Measuring the rag or the piece of cloth would be to see the question of whether it's the appropriate size that would make it subject to ritual impurity. Okay? Going to the next part, umodadin et hamikvah. And it's possible even to measure the liquid in the mikvah, in other words, on Shabbat, implying that it is a kosher mikvah. Uma'aseh b'mei aviv shel Rabbi Tzadok. And there was a situation, an incident, we say, right, in the time of Rabbi Tzadok's father, ubimei Abba Shaul ben Bitnit, and in the time of Rabbi Abba Shaul ben Bitnit, right, what happened, right? Shapakaku et hama'or, b'tafiach, and that they actually closed up a skylight, a kind of window, with a piece of earthenware vessel. In other words, we're going to call it a planter. Okay, so that would be a fairly large, think of a fairly large piece, earthenware vessel that was used in that purpose, that they stuck in the window. Okay, v'kashru et hamekeda begami, and not only that, but they also then, in order to make sure that there was no space, they tied another smaller piece, a shard of earthenware, with a piece of reed. Okay, leida im yesh begigit poter tefach, in order to determine whether or not in the roof there was an opening the size of a handbreadth, im lav, or if not. Okay? Of course, we're dealing here with a question of maybe tumas mace, all right? And whether or not the tuma is going to expand. Umidivrehem lamadnu, and from their words we learn, shepokakin imodidin v'koshrin b'Shabbat, that we can seal something, close something up, that we can measure, that we can even tie, okay, things on Shabbat. So Gemara now is going to raise some of these issues. Gemara iba'elahu. So the sages asked, right, the following: Hafara bein letzorach uvein shelo letzorach. If is the question of nullifying the vow, was this only for a vow that was made for the purpose of Shabbat? Or are we talking about a vow in general? The she'elah. And when we say we ask a sage the question to nullify a neder, litzorach in, do we say that again it was only for the purpose, the needs of Shabbat? Yes. Then one could ask the shaila, shelo litzorach lo. But if it were not for the necessity of Shabbat, one couldn't ask it. Umishum hachi, and because of that, kemiflaginhu mehadade. Okay, and that's why these items were separated. O dilma, or perhaps hafara nami litzorach in, shelo litzorach lo. Or perhaps we're going to say that nullifying the vow for the purpose of Shabbat, yes, and not for the purpose of Shabbat also would be no. Vaha, and here in this case, the paralig laho, where they disagree about it, mahadade, it's one another, mishum dahafara ein srich beitin, because the nullification of a vow, which remember could be done by a father or by a husband, does not need a court. V'she'elah tzricha beitin, and is that the reason? Because the asking of the shaila could go to a beit din if you don't have a sage smart and available to ask the question for him to do it on his own. Tashma, says the Gemara. Listen to the following braita. Detane zute debe Rav Papa. Okay. The following braita was from Zuti, who was of the school of Rav Papa. Mifirin nidarim b'Shabbat. He says that we may nullify vows, okay, on Shabbat. What point? Letzorech HaShabbat. When they come to deal with something specifically for Shabbat. Letzorech HaShabbat in, shelo letzorech HaShabbat lo. For the needs, something required for Shabbat, yes. But if it's not a necessity for Shabbat, no. Lishna achrina. And now we have perhaps a different version of this situation. Ibayalahu. So the rabbis were asked the following. Litzorech atravaihu katani. When we say it's for the need, it's necessary. Okay. Is it for both? Is that what it's teaching? V'shelo litzorech lo. In other words, both hafara and she'ela for both. And if it's not for necessary for Shabbat, no. Alama hafarat nidarim me'ed la'ed. This would then seem to give proof the idea that nullification of vows has to be done within 8 la'ed, within a 24-hour period. O Dilma, or perhaps kikatani letzorech, that when it teaches that it was done for the necessary aspect of Shabbat, asha'elahu dikatani, that was only dealing with the example of asking the Beis Din or the sage. Okay. Aval hafarat nidarim, but in regards to nullification of vows, afilu shelo letzorech, even if it were not for the necessity of Shabbat. Alama hafarat nidarim kol hayom, which would seem to imply, therefore, that nullification of a vow, okay, could be done not just within a 24-hour period of the vow being made, but throughout the day. For example, in that case, if a woman made a vow, let's say Erev Shabbat, okay, Motzei Shabbos, the husband, let's say, could still nullify her vow. Okay. Tashma, says the new Braita. Tani Rav Zuti, the Be Rav Papi. Following was taught by Rav Zuti, again, the school of Rav Papi. Mefirin nidarim b'Shabbat. We may nullify vows on Shabbat, litzorech haShabbat, for the necessity of Shabbat. Litzorech haShabbat in, shelo litzorech haShabbat lo. For the necessity of Shabbat, yes, but if it's not for the necessity of Shabbat, no. Alama, and therefore what? Hafarat nidarim me'et la'et. And therefore we conclude from this that the nullification of vows has to be done within the 24-hour period. Now, what happens, however, is going to be a response. Amar Rav Ashi, says Rav Ashi, v'ha'anan tonight. But we learned in a Mishnah, hafarat nidarim kol hayom, that nullification of vows may be done throughout an entire day. V'yesh b'davar lahakel ulahachmir. And as a result, says Rav Ashi, there are situations where there could be more stringency, situations where there could be more leniency. Okay? In other words, based on the calendar, the amount, the day can vary, be a longer day or a shorter day. Ketzad, how is that possible? Nadra lele Shabbat. Okay, let's assume that the woman made a vow on Friday night, right? Mefer lele Shabbat. All right, the husband or the father, whatever, could nullify the vow Friday night. V'yom haShabbat ad shetechshach, and on Shabbat day until it gets dark. Right? Nadra im chashecha, if she made her vow, okay, let's say as it got dark, right? Mefer ad shelo techshach. Okay, in that case, he could only nullify it until it gets dark. She'im lo hefer, because if he did not nullify it at that point, mishachashecha eino yachol lehafer. Once it's dark, then he's no longer able to nullify it. Tana'aihi. We say this seems to be a machloket Tanaim. The Tanya is taught in a Braita, Hafarat Nidarim Kol Hayom. That's where it says that the nullification of vows, okay, is throughout the whole day. Rabbi Yossi bar Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Elazar bar Rabbi Shimon, Amru me'et le'et. And the two of these sages say that it can be done within the 24-hour period. Right. Now, let's go on. Back from our Mishnah, V'nishalim l'nidarim. And one can ask a shaila to be absolved from the vow. Right? We said from the court or from a single sage capable of doing so. Ibayalahu. So they asked as follows. Keshelo haya lo pnai. Are we talking about a situation, okay, where the individual didn't have the time before Shabbat to nullify the vow? Or dilma afilu haya lo pnai. Or perhaps even in a situation where he had the time to nullify it. Tashma. Listen to the following Braita. Da'az dekiku le Rabbanan. Okay. That we're saying here that the rabbis would listen, give a hearing to Rav Zutra, berate the Rav Zina. Right? Visharu le nidarei. Right? And what did they do? They absolved him from his vow. Va'afal gav dahava pnai, even though he had the time that he could have had it nullified otherwise. Back to our Mishnah. Shapakaku et ha'ma'or b'tafiach, v'kashru et ha'mekedah b'gami. That they closed up, they sealed up the in this case, the window, the skylight, the light, with what we call the planter, a earthenware planter, and they tied a small piece of earthenware shard with a reed so that it was completely closed. Amar Rav Yehuda, says Rav Yehuda Amar Rav, in the name of Rav. He said as follows. Hilkate, Katana Haita, Bein Shnei Batim. He says the situation was such, he says, that there was a small alleyway, okay, between two houses. V'tum'ah Haita Sham. And there was some corpse, something else there in the alleyway, according to one explanation. Okay, and they were concerned, right, that it would come into the house. Okay, or another explanation said that that they were concerned that it go from the house into the alleyway. Right? Different explanations, and we'll just go over a tiny bit. V'gigit stuka munachet al gaban. Okay, and there was a problem, okay, between the two houses with the roof, where the roof was split, and there was some sort of a barrel, some sort of a item, okay, on top. Upakaku et ha'ma'or b'tafiach. But they were concerned that because of the split roof, again, the tumah would rise. And so they decided to put this planter in the window, right? B'tafiach. V'kashru et ha'mekedah b'gami. And they tied, okay, another piece of earthenware shard to it, okay, with a reed so that they'd make sure that there was no empty space by which the tuma could proceed, right? And so this was the situation, right? V'kashu otam begami leida im yesham begigit potech tefach im lav. Whether or not this way they would know whether or not in the split in the area of the roof, the tuma would rise and affect what was going on. Okay, so there is okay. So we're going to stop right there today, and I'm going to finish up at the siyum this last little piece. Okay, and then tomorrow, everybody, we'll start Eruvin. Okay.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Rabbi.
All right.
1 o'clock. 1 o'clock, right? That's
1
over
o'clock.
tonight.
That's right.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay,
Have a great
everybody,
day.
take
Bye.
care. Right. Bye-bye.
Lead.